Chapter 26. Re-encounter. Laura greeted us at the door with her apron on, a radiant smile, and a sparkle in her eyes that showed the happiness she felt at seeing us again. Lilith entered first, and I followed with a bottle of wine in hand, purposely bought at a supermarket where we had stopped along the way. Laura closed the door and said to me,
"Ladies first, right?"
"Always," I replied, and Laura hugged Lilith tightly, and she responded in kind. They seemed like two girls who hadn't seen each other in a long time, and all that was missing were the jumps and the hysterical screams of teenagers. After a while, still embraced, they exchanged a kiss. Finally, Laura let go of Lilith, saying,
"Now you."
She threw herself into my chest, hugging me and making me embrace her completely. As I returned the hug, the warmth of her body against mine seemed already familiar, normal, as well as the kiss that followed, filled with affection. Laura took the wine bottle from my hand.
"It's better to open this to let it breathe a little, don't you think?"
She asked me. "I think so," I replied.
"Come to the living room. Make yourselves comfortable. Lunch is almost ready."
The house was invaded by the smell of aromatic herbs and spices, so much so that I could almost taste them. She led us to the living room and disappeared for a moment into the kitchen, returning shortly with a corkscrew in hand.
"Do you want some aperitif? A martini, or a sweet wine?"
"No, thank you."
"And you, Miguel? Don't you want any? To whet your appetite?"
she asked us as she opened the bottle. "Laura, just this scent that fills your house is enough for me. I don't need more than this. Believe me." She blushed slightly and placed the open bottle on the table. The table was set almost ceremoniously. It was obvious that she wanted to welcome us well, and the truth is that none of that would be necessary. But despite that, I felt somewhat honored by the care she had taken. Finally, lunch was served. A magnificent roast that almost killed the appetite just by looking at it. We ate, drank, talked. During that lunch that extended at the table into the afternoon, I had a lot of fun with the game Laura and Lilith played with each other. Laura was curious about Lilith, trying to learn more about her, and Lilith skillfully and easily dodged any question. Laura wasn't frustrated by Lilith's answers, which were concrete enough to be answers and at the same time vague enough not to reveal much about herself. But it was noticeable that the desire to know more made Laura increasingly curious and absorbed by the aura of mystery that surrounded that seemingly young woman. I stayed there as a spectator, watching, observing, intervening in the conversation only when asked. At the same time, I lost myself in thoughts, as if I had small visions of something similar, and I began to have a strange and very unsettling feeling of déjà vu. It was already past mid-afternoon when we cleared the table. Lilith and I insisted on helping. Despite Laura's protests, we carried things while Laura loaded the dishes in the dishwasher. Finally, the three of us were in the kitchen, and Lilith asked,
"So, what are we doing later?"
Laura replied,
"You know, I thought we could go out for dinner. I talked to Enrique."
"Enrique?" I asked.
"Yes, my boyfriend. The one who stood me up the other day."
I felt uncomfortable, for some reason. The fact that I was going to sit at the same table with a man who had shown such rudeness, not to mention everything that had happened as a consequence, didn't make me very comfortable.
"Unless you don't want to go,"
Laura said, with a hint of sadness in her eyes.
"We'll go, of course we'll go."
I nodded in agreement. Although I didn't feel like it, Lilith looked at me, reading my thoughts with a startling clarity, and gave me a smile. But not that sweet smile that I loved so much. Rather a mischievous smile, filled with ulterior motives. I was truly scared, felt apprehensive, but then I remembered the conversation we had had hours earlier in the car and knew that something was unfolding there that I still didn't understand.